Hi, I'm Jonathan Weinberg, and this is Drawing with Fountain Pens. In late May, I had the pleasure of doing a portrait of Andrew Wong, Dr. Andrew Wong, who has collaborated with me on several videos, and he's one of my fountain pen friends. And I asked him questions about his childhood, and we talked a little bit about fountain pens, and I did his portrait. And this is an edited version of that interview. If you want to support this channel, please subscribe and give it a like. That's the only way that I get any support here. I pay for all the pens that you see here, and so it really is important. So I please ask you to subscribe if you like what we're doing. And I'm with Andrew Wong, Dr. Andrew Wong.
Happy to be here, Jonathan.
Okay, and we're going to do a portrait today. Actually, the interesting thing is that when I do a portrait, I don't use fountain pens.
Okay.
But fountain pens will probably come up at some point.
Oh, yeah. All right, I could talk all day.
All right, so
fountain pens. That's how we know each other. So
that's how we know each other, right. All right, so tell me let's hear a little bit of your life story. Where were you born?
I am what is called an ABC, American-born Chinese. The extent of my Chinese I describe as restaurant Chinese, so I can order food in a restaurant. That's about it, unfortunately. My mom was born in Hong Kong, so her parents were from China. They fled the mainland during the Cultural Revolution. My dad was born in China, and shortly afterwards, his family moved to Hong Kong for the same reason. My mom moved to Canada for high school, so she went to Catholic school and then went to the University of Alberta. My dad went to medical school in Hong Kong, but then transferred to a regular university. He transferred to McGill, and then he did his postdoc, so he got a PhD in Canada as well. Or he got his doctorate in Canada at the University of Alberta, and that's where they met. So.
And how did they get to the United States? Like, why did they come? Why did they leave China?
So, my mom probably different because she moved to Canada with her mom, because my grandfather on my mom's side had health issues, so she maybe had church connections in Canada. Whereas my dad's story is kind of similar maybe to an immigrant story or an academic immigrant, where you're in Asia and you come to the United States for a student visa, eventually with the goal of coming back to Asia after you get your degree. And he told me kind of foretellingly that when he was at the passport office or at the airport getting his passport stamped, the immigration officer said, you're not going to come back. You're going to go to North America and not come back. And that was the case because he saw there being a lot more opportunity in North America. After they got married, they moved to California, Northern California, where my dad's first professorship, he was an assistant professor at Stanford, which is where I was born, at Stanford Hospital in Palo Alto. We lived there for about 5 years, and he kind of jumped around. Each time he would move through the academic professorships, he would go, and he has a PhD in physiology, so he does a lot of...
and he has an MD also? Or just
he didn't finish medical school. He just went to get a PhD in neurophysiology.
So he's a researcher.
So he is is what you call a bench scientist. He does basic science. So he stabs neurons with electrodes and examines the electrical conduction between brain cells.
And is he still alive?
Yes, yeah. He was born in 1946, but he has a magical thing that is hard to get now called tenure, with now the University of New York, the State University of New York in Brooklyn, SUNY Downstate, and he just kind of kept. But I guess going from Canada to California, yeah, maybe that was easier then than it is now.
And so when you were growing up, And do you have brothers and sisters?
I'm an only child.
Oh.
Yep.
So there wasn't a sense, that you need to know Chinese or when you were growing up, I assume, because...
Yeah,
never...
I mean, my dad worked a lot. He still works a lot. And so my mom primarily raised me, and she felt that the priority was for me to get assimilated as quickly as possible. So I probably did know more Chinese then at 5 years old than I did at any other point in my life.
And what did she do? I'm sorry, did you say?
Her background is in chemistry.
Wow.
She became a full-time mom after I was born. But her background is as in science. She's a scientist. So, I mean, she's worked for the Department of Environmental Protection. So what they do is they analyze the drinking water in the reservoirs to make sure that it is safe to drink. She's worked for a company called Merle, which was subsequently purchased by Merck, I believe. And that company is responsible for adding muscovite, which is what we see in glitter. So at that company, she kind of analyzed the properties of the muscovite, which would become mica. And mica is added to car paint. It's added to toothpaste, for example. Probably a lot of the sparkle inks. The sparkle is probably made out of mica.
Okay.
To give it more visual appeal. So she was an analytical chemist for that company.
Interesting. Okay. So would you say you had a happy childhood?
I would say yes. Yeah, I would say that I was a product of the 1970s, where I think we were left to our own devices. I wasn't a latchkey kid, but my typical time with my friends would be just, okay, I would go out with my friends. And I spent a large part of my childhood in Texas, where lots of woods, lots of free range, and we would just run out into the woods and decide to go home when we felt like it. So I would say that I had a lot, but then on the other side of it, I had my parents, my mom had very high standards for school work. So it was very important that I took school seriously, in particular math and science. So I think on the one hand, school was a high priority, but then it wasn't like I would have to spend hours and hours after I finished my homework to practice the violin or something like that, or to become a world-ranked chess player, for example. So I had a lot of free time, I think, with extracurriculars. We stayed in Louisiana for about 2 years, too. So my dad was at LSU, and then he transferred to the University of Houston. And then our final move was New York when I turned 12 years old. So I would consider myself a New Yorker.
I didn't realize that you grew up in New York.
Westchester, not New York City. So Westchester County, Croton-on-Hudson.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So I'm the product of suburban America.
Right. When you were in Westchester, I mean, did you feel like growing up was like being a minority a big part of your identity, or did you not really have that sense of self?
I think the way that I thought was very conventional. So even though I knew I was Chinese, Asian, and we would go to Chinatown every weekend, I felt that was, maybe part of who I was, just like maybe my friend was, his grandparents were Irish, and my other friend was Jewish, and they would have communions. My Christian friends would have communions. My Jewish friends would have bar mitzvahs. But it was kind of like that sort of identity, that we were still all kind of like middle class American kids who.
It's funny, as somebody who was Jewish and grew up in New York City, we went to Chinatown a lot also.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if we went every weekend, but we went a lot.
Right. Yeah. Interesting.
Okay, so you went to high school, and then where'd you go to college?
I went to Dartmouth College in New Hampshire.
I did not know that.
Continuing my
So you were a very good student.
Yeah, well, I didn't get into Yale, so I had to go to Dartmouth.
Well, Dartmouth is as good as Yale.
I think
You want to go to a small school.
for me, it was a really great school because, it was good and bad. It was good in that it's undergraduate focused, undergraduate experience focused. It wasn't too distracting, so it's not like we were in a big city where I could go out and get lost. And then the professors really look out for you. They're accessible.
Yeah.
Everyone, New Hampshire, I think New England has a mentality that's a little bit different than, for example, the Mid-Atlantic or New York City. In New York City, it's live and let live. But they're not going to go out of their way typically to help someone in distress, because we're all in distress in New York City. Whereas in New England, you can meet someone who hardly knows you and they can be your best friend. Maybe religion has a small part to do with it, or it's just kind of the way of the life there, which is good and bad, that you go to church, and at the end of a sermon, the pastor will say, and turn to your right and shake hands with the person sitting next to you.
Yes.
So there's this kind of mentality of love thy neighbor.
Yes.
Kind of presume the best in someone, which I think was great for me as a student coming of age, but it created a real identity crisis when I did go to NYU for med school.
Oh.
Because I don't think you could get much different than NYU, which is linked to Bellevue Hospital.
Yes.
And like Baker Library in Hanover, New Hampshire. I think the demographics are very different.
Well, I grew up in the Greenwich Village, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I know NYU very well.
Yeah.
And also, Gene went to NYU. I mean, a lot of people I know went to NYU. So in medical school and law school, and it's a great school. You are obviously very good.
Well, I would say I was a professional student, which doesn't necessarily give someone the skills that they need to be successful as a professional. So I think
or a person, I guess, either, right?
That's true too. Yeah.
Here's a big question. Here you are, high-powered, going to the very best schools and everything, and medical school and everything, and yet you decided to become a family physician. That's unusual, isn't it? I mean, usually we would expect you to be, some specialty we can make millions of dollars, like plastic surgery.
Right.
My husband's father was a plastic surgeon.
Yeah.
So how did you decide to become a family physician?
Yeah. So, this kind of goes back to, one of the underlying themes of my childhood. You have to be a doctor. So my dad has 4 sisters, and they all moved to the United States, and they all had kids. So my cousins and I we all had to go to medical school.
So how is that? I mean, you realize that that's like that this is a stereotype, right?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. So how is that actually transmit? Because it's in every movie, every comedy, maybe sadly, right, about Asian Americans, right? Just like it was a cliche about Jews, right? Your mother wants her son to be a doctor
or
also.
lawyer,
okay.
Yep.
How is it transmitted? Like, does your mother actually say you have to be a doctor? Do they actually tell you that? Or do you just get the sense that you're supposed to do that?
Yeah.
And if let's say you went into something which was also would make a lot of money. So let's say it's not, because I think we always say, well, if you don't become a doctor, you might have chosen to be, teach kindergarten or something. No, but let's say you wanted to be a head of a corporation or something. You want to be a big businessman. They wouldn't want that either.
Yeah, I think that may have to do with the Cultural Revolution, that Many people in business. So my mom's dad was in business. My dad's dad was in business.
Okay.
And during the Cultural Revolution, the government pretty much just kind of took away all their money.
Oh, okay. So they didn't trust it, or you're saying?
So there may be an idea of not trusting government, that there may be an idea of
So they wouldn't have been happy if you went into business?
I think they would have tried to discourage me from it.
Oh, okay.
Because I remember, because Dartmouth, many of my friends went into
What about
finance.
law?
I think law, there's probably a certain amount of, that involves kind of having to talk with people and negotiate with people. I think for some reason my parents were very much against doing something that involved kind of ingratiating myself to other people, or kind of like my social skills would determine, my level of success.
Oh, okay. So they would actually tell you that this is what we want for you, or you just got a feeling?
Right. Yeah. It may have to do partly with the fact, too, that my dad did 2 years of medical school and he decided not to continue pursuing it.
Okay. Because, it's funny also, it's a funny way, like, I became an art historian and an artist, right? It's like so determined. And I grew up with a psychiatrist, but who was obsessed with art history, and an artist where he said that, so I had, it's almost, but I wouldn't say that they said, oh, you have to be this. I admired them. I wanted to be like them. Is there any of that in there? Like you admire your father and you think that what he does, in medicine and science is really cool, and you want to do that instead of it necessarily being something
whether
that you
it was inherent or whether it was just because I was so exposed to it in my childhood. My strongest areas were science, chemistry, physics, biology.
Did you like it? I mean, did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
I guess that's what I'm trying to say. It's like you talk about it more like, well, I did this, but was this your passion?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that one, maybe something that I had excelled at that wasn't necessarily because I was nurtured in that way would have been Latin, and just, I have a real interest in humanity, civilization, and history, and kind of trying to find commonalities between maybe life as a Roman during the height of the Roman Empire before the days of Christianity, and how things are today. So.
But when you were a kid, though, I assume that wasn't the case, right? I mean, I don't know. It's like I loved history when I was young. I just would read all these history books, and I think I really had a Napoleonic complex. Like I wanted to be Napoleon or something, right? So I don't know. I would get very passionate about stuff.
Yeah.
But science was something you were good at, but you weren't necessarily that passionate about it.
I think. For me, I'm practical. So
I see.
There's people who...
I wasn't very practical. I didn't think about it that way.
There's people who lead with their heart and bring their brains along, which is how probably most people are, most normal people are. And then there's me, I lead with my brain and bring my heart with me.
Oh, I see.
So maybe from that point of view, kind of understanding the practicality of things.
Okay, so then you became a doctor, and then what happens?
So in medical school, I was 100% sure that I wanted to be a surgeon.
Okay.
So I started in general surgery residency in Brooklyn. And for a few reasons. I think number one is I have a thin skin, and you need a thick skin to be a surgeon in New York City. I wasn't happy. And then I think number two is the program wasn't great. It went on probation shortly after I left it. But I finished 2 years of general surgery. And and after that decided to switch into internal medicine.
Mhm.
And so internal medicine is a 3-year residency. I started all over as an intern after 2 years of general surgery, and did 3 additional years of residency in Brooklyn as an internal medicine resident. And by that time, rather than go into a fellowship, I thought, I've been through school long enough. I just want to work for a little bit and then figure it out. Because my whole life growing up, I was told you have to be a doctor. But then once I became a doctor, what the hell was I supposed to do? So I think in med school, a lot of people actually have family members who are doctors, and they have a pretty good idea of what they want to do, what kind of medicine they want to practice, what practicing medicine is like. And for me, I pretty much had no idea what practicing medicine was really like. So in a way, I kind of had to find myself.
Classically, surgeons are supposed to be, it's a cliche again, but like the worst people, like the best, they're most important, like they're the gods of the hospital. But,
A little sociopathic.
But on the other,
a little sociopathic.
But it's a really stressful
When I was
thing to like cut people open and everything. But at the same time, and also they're treated like they're the top of the heap and everything, so that contributes.
That your ego, feeding your ego is worth all the aggravation and vitriol
but also
that you
means
have to go
that
through.
you have to go through that in order to get, so they treat their students and potentially can be very mean to their students.
Right.
But also the stakes are so high, it's like if you
very
screw
true.
up, right?
Very
I
true.
guess. But anyway, so it's not for everybody.
No, definitely not.
So then you went into, and then did you feel like that was who you wanted to be? That was good.
I kind of thought, well, gastroenterology would be great because I know so much about the digestive system through surgery that would be a natural kind of transition.
Yeah.
But I thought I would be a hospitalist for a few years, just kind of work, get out of the city, work for a few years, and then maybe do a fellowship after that. That rarely happens, that someone will start working and do a fellowship, which I probably should have thought about, but I landed up as a hospitalist in White Plains, New York.
And what's that mean?
So the idea of a hospitalist was new when I started to do it, and this was in 2007. A hospitalist is a doctor that takes care of patients full-time in the hospital. So it's a higher level of acuity. People are going to be more sick when we take care of them in the hospital. So traditionally, a family practice doctor would take care of their patients from birth to death. That includes the hospital. So before seeing patients for the day, the family practice doctor would go to the hospital and take care of their patients there. But I think this was probably a little bit of a side effect of reimbursements and managed care, that it became a lot less profitable to kind of maybe see 3 or 4 patients in the hospital and to commute back to the office. Because I think that the demand that we have to see more patients in a day to be compensated the same as we had done before. So then it made more sense that a group of doctors would hire a hospitalist to take care of all the patients in the hospital, while the family practice doctors could stay in their practice the whole time and see their patients. So that was me. I was the hospitalist hired by the Scarsdale Medical Group in New York to see the group's patients in the hospital. And I did that for 2 years, and I liked it, but not the schedule. It's a shift system.
Oh, right.
So the hospital needs 24/7 coverage. So I would have to work every other weekend. I would have to split holidays. This is before they really kind of figured out how a hospitalist should operate. Now it's usually they work 4 12-hour shifts and then they have 4 days off. or they work 7 days in a row and then they have 7 days off. But
anyway, okay, so you moved on. We should get to fountain pens pretty soon. Okay. Okay.
So after 2 years of hospice medicine, I decided that, you know, a 9 to 5 type of practice, you know, would be nice, having weekends off, having holidays off. So then I looked into private practice, and there was an ad in the New England Journal for a private practice doctor that was needed for a practice in Greenwich, Connecticut. Did the interview, and they liked the fact that I had been a hospitalist for a few years, and joined them as an employee for the private practice. So this is back in the day when private practice was still owned and managed by physicians, and that's a lot harder now to be in private practice in primary care and do that.
So I know, yeah, my doctor is always very unhappy.
Lamenting the old days.
Yes. Having to deal with Yale. Yes. Okay. And then that's what you do now, sort of. But now you're doing it for.
Yes. So the group was because of the Affordable Care Act in 2014, I think.
Yeah.
A lot of the requirements to stay in conjunction with Medicare were things that a private practice has a hard time doing, which is switching to electronic medical records. It's a lot harder than just, you know, maybe incorporating Microsoft Office into your group. You have to actually lease a very expensive license to use an EMR. You know, we're talking about like 6 figures per physician.
To use Epic, I mean, all that stuff. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the only way to do it was to join a big corporation. We all became employed physicians for Stanford Health Medical Group. And so I was still in the same practice, but now employed by Stanford Health Medical Group from 2012 to 2017. The former partners of the practice decided that they didn't want to have anything to do with Stanford Health Medical Group anymore, and they all left as a bunch. And I was subsequently like one of, I think, 3 doctors left with Stanford Health Medical Group at that office. And that basically brought me from being a junior doctor to being the most senior doctor overnight. I became the site regional director for Stanford Health in Greenwich. And then in 2022, Hartford Health, during the pandemic in 2020, Hartford Healthcare acquired St. Vincent's Medical Center in Bridgeport as part of a move on establishing a presence in Fairfield County. They opened an office in Westport, which was a lot closer to where I was living at the time, Norwalk, and the rest is history. So they hired me to work at that Westport office. They liked the fact that I had some administrative experience as a site medical director. They said, we want someone to help us kind of link our primary care offices together. So you'll see patients half the time. You'll kind of work with the other primary care doctors in the region half the time. Which for me, I think was a move I wanted to make because, you know, the future of primary care is becoming more and more constricted, that a lot of what we do gets outsourced to not just hospitalists, but urgent cares. It gets outsourced to APRNs and physician assistants. It gets outsourced to artificial intelligence and virtual medicine.
Okay, so that's where you are now.
And so I've been practicing in Westport, Connecticut now since 2022, which can't believe it. I'm in my 5th year. It's time's really flown by.
So you also do a lot of, you're kind of administrator too, right?
That's right. So, you know, I like to say that my interest is sustainability in the careers of primary care providers, including physicians and APRNs and staff. There's a lot of burnout in the medical world. There's a lot of burnout in the teaching world as well. It's multifactorial, but I think a lot of it has to do with all the micromanagement and the information overload that we have now because of technology. So I help to find ways to kind of prevent burnout in the profession.
So tell me about how did you get into fountain pens?
My very first fountain pen. Well, I've always been kind of a stationary nerd. So I remember as a kid, my favorite place to go would be the Sanrio store. This was when I was living in Houston, and there was a Sanrio store, which was really kind of unique at that time. There was nothing else like it. You'd go in and...
What's a Sanrio store?
So a Sanrio store is a store that sells products made by Sanrio, a Japanese company that has the trademarks on Hello Kitty, Tuxedo Sam, and
I didn't know that.
What we called Yucca Pucks back
After
then.
my time. Yes, okay. Okay.
And a big part of Sanrio too was stationery, so they would have tape with characters on it. And they really kind of had unconventional office supplies compared to what we were used to in the United States. Mechanical pencils and little pencil boxes where you could push little buttons on the box and it would kind of trigger things, like an eraser would pop out if you push one button, you push another button, and like a secret compartment opens. So I think as a professional student, growing up, that I was just really interested in that sort of thing. I was the first person to use like 0.5 millimeter LEDs, in my elementary school.
Oh, wow.
And colored LEDs as well.
Stationary nerd.
I was a stationary nerd, yeah. So, I always had kind of a proclivity towards stationery. And then, this is before we went to electronic medical records, but, I would write so many notes on patients and go through so many charts that I developed carpal tunnel syndrome when I was in private practice around 2011, 2012. And I read that fountain pens were a good device to use for people who have carpal tunnel from ballpoints, because the way that a fountain pen works is that it uses hydrogen bonding with the ink molecules to suspend a drop of ink at the tip of a nib. So you're not actually, in theory, writing by pushing the nib into paper, but you're actually writing by touching the bottom of an ink drop onto the paper. So there's minimal friction, minimal pressure involved.
Exactly.
So I thought, hey, this is a great idea. I'll do it with my carpal tunnel by switching to fountain pens. I had never used a fountain pen though. My dad's mom did, and I remember when I was a kid, I would visit my grandmother in her office, and I would go into her office and I'd find these fountain pens that I was fascinated by, but I didn't know how to write with them, so I just kind of pushed so hard that I would bend all the nibs. And that would, make her pretty upset, but I never figured out how to write with them. So I went onto Amazon and I wanted to get like a nice inexpensive fountain pen that would have everything I needed. So there was a Noodler's Ahab demonstrator that came with a little bottle of Noodler's ink. And
so funny the way that everybody sort of starts out,
Yes,
it's
it was
cheap.
Inexpensive. It was paired with ink.
Yeah.
And then, so
It didn't cost
I
much.
have a real interest in knowing how things work. So I was always the kid that would get something cool, take it apart, and then not know how to put it back together.
Yeah.
That was me. So I think the opportunity to have a demonstrator where you could actually see the internal components was a
that
big
part
draw
is
too.
cool. I think it's just. I think the only thing that's really unpleasant about them is that they smell so bad. That's the thing that is so funny about them. So they have that weird.
Yeah, I don't remember if I had noticed that, but I didn't keep it very long because when I put the ink in, I didn't understand how they worked, and I thought it was broken because I thought that the ink would go straight from the reservoir right to the tip.
You don't necessarily need to see it to see.
So I guess the little section area is kind of like seeing the intestines of how a fountain pen works. It's not pretty, but that's how it works.
No, anyway, it is kind of. Awesome.
And then it had the little breather tube as well. I didn't know what because I thought the ink went into the breather tube to come out. Yeah. And I said, it's not going in the breather tube. It must be broken.
No, and I mean there are wonderful things about fountain pens, but also, you get ink on your fingers. They're so annoying half the time.
They're messy, yeah.
And then you wonder, and sometimes it's just so inexplicable why some of them aren't working well. Although I notice that things, they seem to be getting better and better. People are more reliable. I don't know. I've had less problems.
Yeah, it's the
pens.
really unreliable ones that don't interest me. I would say that. Well, the main reason why I collect Mont Blanc is that I feel that it's going to hold its value. Kind of like maybe Mont Blanc is like Rolex and Lamy is like Casio. That Lamy, for all intents and purposes, maybe has a more reliable product. Lamy has a product, but probably over time it's going to be less desirable than a Mont Blanc, even though it's maybe less reliable, more complicated, they're harder to fix.
Well, and also Lamy doesn't even make their most expensive pen, I think, is around
Lamy 2000. Or...
That's not very expensive. No, there are a few that are more expensive than that. Maybe, I don't even know if they're making it, but they make a pen that's in the kind of maybe $350 or something like that.
Oh, okay.
Which is very beautiful.
Sure.
And yeah, but you're right. I mean, those are not, people are not, they're very modern looking, and I don't think they register to people in the same way that this is, you've made it, you're successful. So yeah, there is a certain sense in which
it's less about me wanting to be part of that Mont Blanc circle and more because I am so interested in history and kind of why is Mont Blanc successful in a way that maybe Waterman wasn't, in a way that Parker didn't become, in a way that where some other European companies, why can't France come out with a brand that sticks? They kind of had, they caught lightning in a bottle, that they combined good marketing with a good product.
yes.
Because a lot of people will say that the Mont Blanc of the 1950s is going to be far superior to anything that you can get now. And so their product then, their nibs, the beauty maybe, the telescoping piston filler.
They made very good student pens too.
Yep, yeah, they made, they
were very similar to Pelican.
The Monte Rosa.
Yeah, they're very similar to Pelican.
Yeah,
really.
I think Pelican nowadays makes a more reliable product.
I think fountain pens are a reasonable thing to put your money in because they will have value later. But I don't think they're a particularly good investment, just like jewelry is not a particularly good investment. If that's what you're thinking about, like if you're doing this for
investment purposes.
For investment purposes, because collecting is so problematic, because often the things that people know are valuable to begin with become less scarce, weirdly enough. People then just keep them and don't use them, and so they become mint. And then there are quite a lot there are quite a lot of them, because people put them away and say, I'm keeping this as a valuable thing. While that you don't know that, but let's say at some point it becomes a very chic thing for people to focus on industrial design. I mean, it is actually already. Take mid-century modern. Used to be able to get a lot of Scandinavian chairs for $50, right, for nothing, and now they're going for $3,000, $4,000.
Right.
So that could easily happen with Lamy fountain pens. And indeed, if you happen to have a Lamy, one from 1986, that's the original color or whatever, those goes for thousands of dollars.
Do they? Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just saying that that's the thing. Collectability is one thing, and I agree with you that if you have a Mont Blanc pen, you can resell it. But right now, if you bought a Mont Blanc pen, let's say, a few years ago for what was it, $1,200 or something like that. Those don't go for $1,200. Those have gone down in value. I mean, you can get those, pick those up.
There's some rare instances where, they're, they're,
I'm just talking about your stand. Yeah, but I'm just saying the standard pen doesn't go up in value.
Right. Well, I
you can-
never buy a new pen. My pens
Right.
are always used.
Right. Well, no, exactly. Right. It will be valuable. Will have value. Right. That's different than if you bought a car. You bought you buy your whatever car, crappy car you buy, and then 3 months later it's worth half of what it's worth.
Right.
That's not.
We don't expect a car's value to go up in price.
Right, and also if you're using it, which is another thing. People forget that about their house. They say, "Oh, my house has gone down slightly in value or something," but you've been living in it for 20 years. That's really worth it. Or you had it on the wall. You enjoyed that painting. You can't enjoy a stock certificate. So you get. This color is beautiful. Okay, this is coming out nice.
Okay. Yeah.
I think you look very young. I hope you want to look very young.
Excellent.
You look like you're about 18 in this.
Okay.
That's not necessarily
Thank
good.
you. Well, thanks for
You
making
want to
me
look like an
flattering.
18-year-old young person?
Well,
All right, so tell me.
so the
Mont
AHAB
Blanc.
was a fail. So
Okay.
because I didn't understand, I thought it was broken because the ink was kind of going into the section. I thought it was broken. I thought the snorkel was broken. So I kind of shoved that into a drawer, and I thought, well, let me give it one more chance. And actually, growing up, there was a family tradition. I think it might be an Asian tradition that when you graduate or have a significant accomplishment, you're gifted a pen.
No, that's. I think you told me that. And I told you.
Yeah.
That's like a huge thing. It used to
it
be
is? Okay.
everywhere. Yes.
Okay. So when I graduated high school, I got a Mont Blanc rollerball. When I graduated college, I got a Mont Blanc rollerball. So I thought, well, maybe I'll give a Mont Blanc fountain pen a try.
Yes.
And during residency, I heard someone talk about the Fountain Pen Hospital in New York City. So I went to visit the Fountain Pen Hospital. I was, I think that was in the time when I was going to the city a lot. And it happened to be the same day that they were having their fall expo. And during the fall expo, they have vendors come in and they kind of show their pens, their products. I remember, Rhodia was there showing their notebooks. Retro 51 was there. I remember, this was when the Tesla coil, Mike's Fat Boy pens were really popular then. Montegrappa was there, Omas was there. And this was kind of when I was introduced to these really high-priced pens. There was an Omas silver overlaid pen with, scenes from Switzerland on it. And I was like, this is great. And he said, oh, this is $10,000. I was a little bit blown away by, I think, the world of luxury fountain pens. But it happened that the Mont Blanc dealer was there. And so since I was familiar with Mont Blanc pens and I kind of grew up kind of regarding them as maybe nicer pens that would be more reliable, I didn't want something that was going to turn to junk. So I went to the Mont Blanc dealer. And people there were buying the Legrands, because they were running a special. And for some reason, I think I had kind of latched onto the fact that they made a really big pen. I didn't know the name of it at that time. It was 149, but I wanted to feel like I knew a little bit about fountain pens and not come in complete. Because in New York City, you don't want to be taken for a grift. You don't want to be a person
no. You always think that,
the 3-card Monte or the shell game. So I felt like, I want to kind of act like I know what I'm talking about so I don't get talked into, the tourist pen. So I said, oh, yeah, what kind of pens do you have? And he said, oh, yeah, we have the special on the Legrand pens, the fountain pens. And I said, no, I want the really big pen. And so he actually goes behind the counter and pulls up, this box. He said, oh, this is the 149. This is great. He explained to me the meaning of 4810, which is the height of the Mont Blanc summit. And he kind of showed me, oh, this is the 90th anniversary nib, which actually kind of turned me off a little bit because I said, no, I want the one that says, like the 4810 on it, the Meisterstück on the nib. But I guess this was the only one he had, the 90th anniversary, which I guess because it's more limited, obviously, maybe it holds its value a little bit more in terms of collectability. But I got that one, went home with it. I think it was maybe $700 at the time for sale.
Well, that's certainly gone up.
Yeah, yeah. And this was kind of before I really understood, you know, how to fine-tune nibs and how nibs worked and the correct writing angle, but I wasn't quite sold on it. It actually broke on me a few times, and I sent it back to the Mont Blanc company, and each time to get it fixed, it was like $100, $200 because the resin was just very thin. They might have fixed it, but the resin just wasn't very durable. But
that's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of used it, but just not all the time. And a few years later, I kind of thought, you know, this was when I was with Mary. We wanted to do something fun. So, you know, many years later, we went to another fountain pen expo at the Fountain Pen Hospital, and she said, oh, this is great. And that was the Visconti Homo sapiens.
Right.
I think, which for, you know, an amateur is probably a much better pen, because the material, it's partly mixed in with lava rock, which made it feel heftier. And, you know, the nib, I think it was one of the palladium nibs that kind of, you could flex a little bit. I think that was a much nicer pen. I dropped it on the nib once and it bent, so I kind of learned how to kind of fix nibs at that point.
And Mary was getting into the fountain pens too.
I think she actually supported my kind of re-interest very early on, because she kind of likes, you know, what I'd say are like tchotchkes or little knickknacks. And fountain pens are a lot like that. You know, not necessarily for practical reasons, but just the aesthetic value, the colors and the designs on the pens. So she said, oh yeah, go for this pen. It was the Homo sapiens. And, you know, I wasn't quite into the whole, like, you know, value, the luxury of the pens. I was just more into, you know, what can I use that's going to be practical to write with? But then I think the Homo sapiens brought me into the world of nibs, nib repair. I became familiar a little bit with the community as well, because I brought it to the hospital for them to fix it. I got a Looking East Visconti fountain pen, which I think retailed for $2,300, $2,100, which was my first kind of collectible, what I consider to be kind of like a luxury collectible pen.
The way you started getting into it, and now you're more focused on sort of what you were like sort of focusing just Mont Blanc, right?
You know, a big part of it, I think, was meeting Eric. There was another Mont Blanc guy where I remember kind of showing my pens, and they're, you know, kind of the impression I got was, oh, that's nothing. Look at my, you know, I think it was Eric. He had not just an M1000, but he had a custom M1000 where he had stacked 3 M1000 nibs on top of each other to make a triple stack M1000.
He does these, you know, they're bespoke, as they say.
Bespoke nibs.
A word that we don't use until, like, it seems like 2 years ago. Now everything's bespoke. Nobody ever used that. Custom designed, I guess.
Right.
I don't know. All right, I'll have to fix this later. There are a lot of things, but I think it's okay. It's okay. You look human. That's what's important.
Okay,
I'll
good.
fix it up.
Good.
And I'm tired anyway. I hope it's all worked out. All right, let me turn everything off.